Welcome to the Circuit of Success Podcast.
The Circuit of Success Podcast.
With your host, Brett Gilliland.
Brett Gilliland, Visionary Wealth Advisory.
The Circuit of Success Podcast. Let's start the show.
Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I am your host, Brett Gilliland, and today we've got Jennifer Williams with us. How you doing, Jennifer?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's exciting to have you. I didn't look into this. My wife's maiden name is Williams, so I don't know. Maybe your husband and her are related somehow.
I doubt it. There are so many Williams.
There are.
You know, before I got married, I was a Quinn.
Okay.
And being a Quinn, there was only one Q. Remember we had the buzz book in school, and you'd find your friends by the letter of their last name? There was always one Q. It was me. I married a Williams, and now I'm one of many.
One of a million, one in a billion, whatever it may be. Well, you are the president and founder of the St. Louis Closet Company, 34 years in business. That is amazing. So before we dive into all that stuff, I know you've heard the podcast. I always ask a big, wide open question of what has helped make you the woman you are today.
Well, I know that question. I wrote it down on a Post-it a couple weeks ago when we scheduled this, and I've been thinking about it. And, you know, I think it was my family. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My grandparents owned a grocery store in Des Peres, Missouri, right next to the Village Bar.
Oh, yeah. Great spot.
And they ran that their whole lives until they retired. And my dad had his own business. He was a wallpaper hanger. And then my mom and my stepdad owned a manufacturer's rep firm.
Oh, my gosh. And
then later went on to open up a business building rear ends for race cars.
Oh,
so
very unique niche, right?
My stepdad was a fuel funny car racer.
Oh, okay.
In his earlier days. So I think that growing up in an entrepreneurial family, you don't talk about it that much. At least, I mean, it was just part of life.
Yeah.
And I think when I got started, it didn't scare me. It just seemed natural. Well, sure, I'll open my own business. It just seemed to be something that was a natural fit.
Yeah, I love that. And I love, too, how you started it. And I also read you wouldn't recommend to a new business owner how you started. But tell that story, because I think it's so awesome because you took your passion and you turned it into a business. And I always talk about betting on yourself. Like, you have to bet on yourself, in my opinion, if you're going to be successful. And you did that. And you did it by doing what?
Well, I was 25. I was in graduate school, had no idea what I wanted to do, hadn't really found that spark yet, right? And was just figuring it out. I was waiting tables at 3 different restaurants, going to school, and a friend of mine came to St. Louis from California, and he was opening up a custom closet company. He said, "Jennifer, I think you'd love this." So I went to work there for 2 weeks, and I literally fell in love with it. I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is great. This is the coolest thing. And in 1991, the concept of custom closets was still pretty new.
Right.
And I was like, I can do this. So I immediately dropped out of graduate school. I quit 2 of my 3 waitressing jobs. I kept one at Obie Clark's just in case. You know, I had to have some money.
Great spot, yeah.
And I decided I was going to figure out a way to write a business plan and get a loan. Well, I mean, that sounds easy,
right.
But, you know, it wasn't easy. I was 25. I didn't have a savings. I didn't have a cosigner. So I went to the SBA, the Small Business Administration, and they sort of taught me how to write a business plan. I took all my stuff and I started calling banks. And everybody was like, "Well, how old are you? And is your dad involved? Are you married?" You know, it was very
You're investors.
Yeah, your investors. Like, no, it's just me. So literally, it was the week of Thanksgiving in 1991. Al Jonigan was my banker's name. He was at Boatman's Bank down on Lindell. And he said, "Well, this sounds really interesting. When can you come down and, you know, present?" I said, "Right now." So now remember, this was before Google.
Right.
I mean, I say that to my kids and they don't, what is that? So I had all my research in plastic milk carts, put them in my Volkswagen Bug, drove down there, carried everything in the bank, sat down, and he talked to me for several hours. And he's like, "This is great. How much money do you need?" And I said, "I think I need $50,000. He said, "Okay." He says, we'll go to loan committee. We'll talk about it. I'll get back to you. I said, "Well, this week is Thanksgiving. I would love to be, you know, thankful for something." So he actually called me at home the day before Thanksgiving and said, "You've been approved for the loan." And I'm like, "Great." He says, "But you need to come up with $15,000 of your own money. And we'll
Which
give
felt
you
like $1 million
at the time, right? And we'll give you 35. And I was like, "Okay, great, sure, I'll be there on Monday." So I just was like, okay, how am I going to do this? So I started opening up credit cards. And, I don't know if, everybody in this room is a lot younger than me, and I don't know about your listeners, but there was a store called Venture.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like a Target, right? But it was owned by Famous Bar. So I was able to get a Famous Bar credit card and shop at Venture and buy all the office supplies I needed. And then I went to Sears and opened up a Sears card and bought all of my installation tools. And then I went to a Ford dealer and I got a loan to buy an installation van. And so I sort of pieced together with a lot of credit cards my $15,000. I went back to the bank the Monday after Thanksgiving and I said, here's my receipts. And he said, Jennifer, that's not exactly what we were talking about. And I go, well, what do you mean? It's $15,000. You said this is what I needed. So that's how I got started.
I love that. I wrote down paralysis by analysis, right? Because I think so many people want to do something, whether it's, the closet company you started or a wealth management firm that we left a big firm and started our own deal. And it's like, let's go. There is no plan B, which I want to talk about in a little bit. But talk about that, because it's easy to say, okay, I got to analyze this and I got to analyze that. But instead you went to Venture, you went to Sears, you went to the Ford dealership, right? Bought. You believed in it and you just made it happen. Talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I was 25, and I think when the younger you are, the less responsibilities you have. So therefore, maybe you're willing to take more risks. Yeah. I wasn't afraid of failure. I was just like, well, of course this is going to work. And if it doesn't, well, I guess I could go back to waiting tables. So I think that there is that fear of taking risk that paralyzes people from getting started, right? They're so afraid of, well, what if it doesn't work? And a lot of things don't work. Right. 8 or 9 out of 10 small businesses fail in their first 5 years. So, 10% make it? Yep. So there's going to be a lot of failures. But I always felt like you learn from your failures. And, we stumbled along the way, definitely. And luckily, we learned from our mistakes and we just kept moving forward. Yep. But I talk to a lot of high school and college kids now, and I really encourage people to get started when they're younger. I wasn't married. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have kids. Yeah. And it was a lot easier for me at that time. Now, there's no bad age to start a business, but I don't know if you're going to fail 8 times before you make it. Like, let's start when we're younger. Yeah.
It's funny. So when my business partner and I started Visionary Wealth Advisors, I was, 37-ish years old, something like that. But my wife was 8 months pregnant with our 4th child. We just built a new home and all this stuff, right? And it was scary. But I think whether you're 25 or you're 37 and you've got a lot of bills, right? It was, for me, that passion that I had to build a brand and to serve clients the way we wanted to serve clients. And I think that you just got to take action. And in the circuit of success, we talk about your attitude, your belief system, the actions that you take ultimately get you success, right? So what I said earlier, the plan B discussion is, did you ever really think about a plan B?
No.
Yeah.
I still don't today.
Right.
It's, and every day something is going to go wrong.
100%.
Every day. And as an entrepreneur, you have to keep moving forward. You cannot stop because you can't make a decision or something doesn't go perfect, because there's a lot of moving parts in a small business. You've got your employees, you've got your customers, you got the product. For us, we manufacture all of the closets. So we have machine issues and a machine goes down and you need those parts, right? So you got to figure stuff out. So for me, there's never a plan B. I mean, we just keep going. This year we had those 2 horrible snow and ice storms. Well, we didn't just stay home and close. Right. We got up early. We plowed the lots. We drove around St. Louis and picked up our installers. We drove them to customers' homes. We shoveled customers' driveways and sidewalks so we could get in. We still had to install those closets because there was no plan B, right? They were scheduled for today, and just because it snowed didn't mean we weren't going to show up.
Which says a lot about your character, right? And the value of your organization. Because that'd be easy to just call and say, hey, I'm sorry. It's obvious there's 10 inches of snow out here. There's nothing we could do. But now to go above and beyond, that's a big deal. And I think when I think about the plan B discussion, the reason I'm talking about it is I just had somebody come in and ask for business advice a couple weeks ago. And this young man said something about a plan B. And I thought to myself, I never had a plan B. Because I think if you do have a plan B, then you give yourself an out, right? Like if you really thought about your plan B, and I could go back to OB Clark's or wherever, right? Like then when the day gets bad and it sucks, you're like, I'm just going to go over here. This is a lot easier, right? So I just don't know. That's kind of the kick I'm on right now, is telling leaders and young people or whatever, just don't have a plan B. Like, just go and then figure it out till it works.
Figure it out, make decisions, and know on your plan A, you're going to have problems. Yep. But you have to keep going forward, and then maybe you veer off path and you just keep heading forward. Yeah. No plan B. I mean, although working at O.B. Clark's, when the Blues go to the playoffs, that's a good place to be working. That is a good place.
Big game last night. They clinched going to the playoffs.
Game. I know.
That's awesome.
I know.
Talk about that again from the ground up, right? Nobody had done that before in your family. You didn't, you liked organization from what I read as a young child, and that turned your passion into this job. But like, what did you do to be a student of the game, to be, and still to this day, a student of the game, to be the best at what you can do?
Well, for me, like you said, I always loved organization. I was just, I don't know, a weird kid. I was like organizing my closet, my mom said, when I was in middle school. And I think I just, when I first started, obviously, once again, no Google, to figure out the industry, I had to talk to people that were already doing it. And I had a friend who, like I said, had come here to open up a company, and he knew people in different cities around the United States. So I just started picking up the phone and calling people and saying, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, can you help me out, or do you want to talk about it? And, in 1991, really until the internet, information, it was hard to get for a newish type industry, right? And the only way to get information was to either physically call and talk to somebody or get in your car and drive to visit them. Yeah. So I did a lot of touring of other closet companies in other cities. And I still do that today. Back in, it was actually on 9/11. So that was 2001. It was probably in 1998. Me and 11 other closet company owners from around the United States formed a group called the National Closet Group. And cool. We were non-competing, and it was open, and we would share, and we would 2 times a year go visit one of the different sites. And they were actually in St. Louis on 9/11. Wow. That was the day they came. And we were all there, and, people had sort of newish cell phones, but not like what we have now. And we had a TV on, and all of a sudden, when the plane, I was giving the welcome speech to St. Louis. Here's my showroom and my manufacturing plant. And then phones and this, and then we had to figure out how to get everybody home. Yeah. Because there weren't rental cars and obviously no planes. So that's how long ago, I've been with this group. And still to this day, I am friends and talk to at least once a month, every one of those. But that group grew and grew and grew. And now the national organization has several thousand closet company owners in it.
I love that. So I've been in we call it a study group, but it's basically the same thing, other wealth management owners. And I've been doing something similar to that since 2003. It's pretty close to the same time. But it's been some of my best learning, right? Mm-hmm. So I think advice for people listening to this, right, from both of us, we've built successful companies, but we did it by learning from others, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely learning from others. And sometimes maybe you'll go outside your industry a little, because, the kitchen and bath industry, similar to custom closets, but different. But I can learn a lot from them to maybe elevate the closets, because closets now are turning into showpieces and boutique closets, and they're really coming out of the closet, let's say. They're getting really fancy, similar to kitchens and bathrooms. So sometimes thinking outside of your exact job is a good way to find out, industry things also.
Yeah. And I think being humble enough to know that you can learn, right, from others versus just shutting it off and being like, I already know everything. That's not going to get you anywhere.
I would never claim to know. I learn something every minute of every day, right? And then, also, surround yourself by people that are smarter than you, right? Hire people that are smarter than you in what they do, right? I mean, try to bring on a team of people that loves your vision, loves your product, loves your service, loves you, but they're also brilliant, smart people that you can learn from.
Yeah. Talk about that for a second. I had somebody today made a comment to me. We were touring Beyond over here, which we talked about earlier, but I got my wealth management firm, Beyond all this stuff. And the guy goes, you must have a clone. And I said, no, I have a lot of great people that work for us, right? That we just have phenomenal people. And I look at that as an investment, right? Some people say, oh, I can't hire this person because it's an expense and can't afford it. But I think me investing in people, and I had an assistant when I was 23 years old. I couldn't afford that person, but it allowed me to stay in the lane that I was good at, right? And I was connecting with people and finding clients, not sitting back doing paperwork. I didn't know what the heck I was doing, right? So how do you look at that as an investment in people to surround yourself so you can do what you do and be great at what you do?
Well, I that's a hard question. I know that I cannot do this by myself. Even when I started, I needed help, right? I needed somebody to help. Even though I wore a lot of hats when I first opened this business, I was answering the phone, selling the closets, designing the closets, cutting the closets.
The trash person.
I was everything, right? And I still do that. I still am, cleaning the bathroom sink and whatever needs to be done. That's the side of entrepreneurship that some people don't always see. Yep. You do whatever it is. Clean the showroom, talk to, whatever it is, the owner does. But I would never be where I am today without the people that I've hired. And I have been so fortunate. My average employee has been with us for over 20 years.
Wow.
I have 5 guys that work in my manufacturing plant, and every one of them has been with me for over 25 years. And for a small business, that's a big deal.
It's a real big deal.
That's a really big deal. My vice president, her and I grew up together, and she's been with me since I started. Day one, she had a full-time job back when I started, and I was like, hey, you want to come help me a little? And she was like, okay. And, she just started and never left.
That's crazy.
So I think that investing in your employees and then giving the values that you have of what you, or maybe giving them the vision you have of what you see your business. And for me, St. Louis Closet Company has always been about, service, customer service. Mm-hmm. I am fortunate enough that I have a business that I can make people happy. I'm not saying that we do everything right the first time. We don't. Yeah. But I have a business that, guess what? If you're not happy, I can come back and I can fix something. I can change something. We can recut something. That's why we manufacture everything, so I can control that process more. My husband owned a DJ business, and if he did someone's wedding and they weren't happy, you don't necessarily go back and rehab another wedding, right? So I am fortunate that I have a business that can fix our mistakes, but fixing our mistakes instantly and immediately to turn that customer into a raving fan has always been probably one of my biggest things. And everybody that works for me knows that. And I've had so many of my employees through the years, especially my salespeople, know, like, I can sell this product so easily because I know you are going to back me up no matter what. Like, we are going to make that customer happy. And I think that's something that a lot of small business owners are like, well, we can't do that. I mean, we won't make any money on that job if we don't go back and fix it, or they're going to argue with the customer. You can't. I mean, I am under the belief that the customer is always right every single time. And even if I have to lose money, we are going to make them happy.
Because they're going to tell 10 more people.
At least 10 more people.
And if you don't do it, they're going to tell 100 people.
Exactly.
And put it on social media.
But I think that, for an entrepreneur, having that value and that vision, and if you give that to your employees, I think it allows the people that you attract to want to be with you, because they want to work for a company with a great reputation. They want, to work for a company that people love, and they love the product and they love the service. It makes their job better. Talk about fun, right? Because I think you got to have fun at work and laugh, in my opinion. So what do you guys do for fun, culture building, stuff like that? Well, right now we're planning our Cinco de Mayo party. I love it. And Peyton, my marketing director, who's here with us today, she's helping us. Shout out to Peyton over here. Shout out to Peyton, who's helping me. So I was antique mall shopping a couple months ago, and there was this amazing tiki bar in the middle of the antique mall, and I was like, we have to have that. We have to have it. So we bought it. My closet company van went over and picked it up, and we set it up in our showroom. And everybody's like, what's that for? And you wouldn't believe the customers that come in and they're like, what's that for? Like, we have one customer who thinks she's going to buy it. And she's been there 2 or 3 times measuring the tiki bar. I said, I haven't even told you I'm going to sell it to you yet. That's great. And she keeps coming. So we have an all-day designer day coming up on May 2nd, and we bring in lunch for everybody, and we got margarita machines coming and a tiki bar. So we do that, but we do a lot of things. We have Sunday Fun Day, which out of the blue a couple times a year. I don't tell anybody what it is. I just wake up on a Sunday and I text all my installers and my shop guys and say, hey, I'm going to be at Target for 2 hours and I'm going to spend $200 for each family. If you want to come, I'll be there from 9 to 11.
Wow.
And they get to come and they get to bring their kids. And, my only rule is no alcohol.
It's probably a good rule.
And they come and their families come and I get to see all the kids and they buy groceries or school supplies or whatever it is.
I love that.
And then this started during COVID, but we've kept it going because it was so much fun and everybody loves it. Our holiday party during COVID, you couldn't do anything. So we set up a drive-through Christmas party where people would come to my house and they'd stay in their car and they'd drive in one side of the driveway and there would be a coffee truck and they'd coffee and hot chocolate. And then there would be the pancake food truck and they'd get pancakes handed to their window. And then there'd be a cookie truck and we give them cookies. And then there'd be a photo bus or a photo booth. They could get out and take pictures and get back in their car. And then I give them their gifts and then they just keep going. And everybody loved it so much because think about how busy everybody is during the holidays, right? And do you really want to go have another long night that you either have to hire a babysitter or, to be with the people you're with all that? And everybody's like, Jennifer, this is the greatest event because it's fun. The kids love it, but it's short. They can be there for, 15 minutes, 30 minutes or whatever, but it's very short. They get their stuff. They're in and they're out. And it's really, really fun.
Yeah.
It's
So
really
talk
fun.
about that. Why is it fun for you? Because I can feel the passion, right? Which I think is cool as a leader that you're so passionate. You kind of lit up when you talk about their kids. I can picture the Target. They walk in and it's like those kids are going to remember that forever. Mommy or daddy's boss bought us a bike or whatever it was, right? That is really cool. So why is that, do you think?
I don't. Well, I feel like my employees, like I said, have been with me for so long. I've seen a lot of these kids, be born and grow up, and a lot of my salespeople bring their kids into work when they're meeting with clients and stuff. I feel like that I don't know. I feel like this responsibility to 42 families that work for me, and when I get to see them and do things that I know, obviously they have a good job, they get a paycheck.
Right.
That's what we're doing. But to be able to do these other little things, and unlike some big corporate jobs, maybe we don't have the benefits package that, they may get working at a big corporate job. But these other things are these small little things that really bring joy to the whole family. Yeah. And I mean, how cool is it to be able to go to your dad's work and meet the boss? And we always have a big pool party in the summer and get one of those big inflatable slides. And I mean, we always try to do something new and fun and different.
Love it.
We used to have M&M Fridays. I stopped because I was eating them all. Where every Friday we would just set up bowls and bowls of M&Ms and all day everybody. It was a silly little thing, but people went crazy over it. We should do that again.
M&Ms. Yeah, maybe not every Friday,
M&Ms.
right?
Well, and then it went into Mike and Ike Fridays, and then we had lots of different things. But I was eating them all, so
so you had to quit.
I had quit.
Talk about the 2006 to 2008 time frame. Doing my research, again, you bet on yourself, right? You made these investments. Talk about that. Tell the other part of the story.
Nightmare.
Yeah,
nightmare.
The nightmare. The nightmare, not the story.
So 2005, 2006. We were on a growth trajectory that we couldn't keep up. Mm-hmm. We owned our own building in Maplewood. It was about 6,000 square feet, and we were actually renting trailers for the parking lot to put finished products in because we would run out of room. So we knew that we had to expand and grow. So I love being in Maplewood because it's so centrally located to all of our clients in Illinois, out west, up north. It's just a great central location. So I found an old 30,000 square foot building right around the corner in Maplewood, but it needed a lot of work. It was 120 something years old.
Wow.
And I, had this vision and we were growing and I needed the space. So I said, let's buy this building and do a total gut rehab. And when I say gut rehab, and, money was pouring in, right? And so I, was like, okay, we're going to do this right. I'm not going to, and I didn't it was concrete block and I wanted it to look like one of the old brick buildings down at the brewery. So I had my bricklayer come and re-brick the entire outside. I mean, we really did a big deal. It took us about 18 months to renovate that building. And we stayed operational in our old building the entire time. So we had not sold the old building yet. And Then what I did to make the move, since we manufacture everything easier, is I bought a whole second entire line of manufacturing equipment, had it set up and operational in the new building. Then we moved over and then brought the second line over. So this was not cheap.
No.
18 months. It was an expensive building. It almost killed me financially, emotionally, everything, but we were there. It was great. We had 3 of the biggest, most blowout grand opening parties that I wish I had that money back. Yeah. And literally, I mean, it was within the first week of being in the new building. The old building I had not sold yet. The recession of 2008 hit. And my sales dropped in half that year. We were projecting doubling, and they went backwards, dropped in half. And it took me several years before I could even sell the old building. We had 3 other remote showrooms that I quickly closed because we could no longer afford to keep those open. And we did have to, it's the only time in 34 years we had to lay people off. But it was a very, very scary time. I mean, people just quit spending money instantly. And the recession of 2008 was primarily with homes, right? And so we work in homes. And so it was awful.
Because they weren't buying homes. They certainly weren't doing a closet.
Right, exactly. And so we just had to literally, scrape and crawl back. And it took a long time. Yeah. It took probably 8 to 10 years to get back to where we were. And then we finally started cruising along again, and then COVID hit. So
before we go to COVID, I believe that the business gods test us sometimes, right? And that was a test, right? Because you could have easily just done, folded, filed bankruptcy, do whatever, right? And some people take the easy way out, and they do that, and that's their thing, and you're not doing that. But what do you think you learned from the business gods and about yourself, about your toughness during that time frame?
Well, once again, I didn't have a plan B. And I was committed on a real estate loan for 2 buildings at the time, plus my house.
Beautiful.
And had 2 kids, had responsibilities at this point in my life. It just taught me that you can't give up. I mean, and it's like first we had 9/11. That was another bump in the road, much earlier on, but a bump in the road. And these are things that you can't plan for, right? You can't prepare for this. I mean, you can try to have extra savings. You can try to have most of your loans paid off, but who knew? Yeah. If we knew that was going to happen, we could have stayed in our old building that was paid for and had plenty of room for years. Yep. I think it just taught me, I don't know. I'm pretty gritty and down and dirty and work, and I'm up early and I'm there every day and
show up,
right? You just show up, right? You show up day after day after day. And a lot of my competitors didn't. Yeah. And, so we got a lot of market share, and, which allowed us over time, I think, to have more referrals and repeat business that we wouldn't have gotten if other people wouldn't have given up.
Yeah. I call it boringly consistent, right? I think as leaders, right? Or just anything that you're good at. And if you're a leader, just good at your job, it's like show up and do the same crap day in and day out. But that's what makes us successful, right? So one of the things I thought was cool too in my research was, this is again before the internet, before you could go to Instagram and make a cool post and somebody sees it and they want a cool closet, right? You took, I think you hand sketched maybe closets, right? And drew them on a piece of paper, put them on maybe a flyer of some sort, and then you put them on a hanger and you put them on people's doors, right? Yeah. Very cool marketing, right?
Little kids' clothing hangers, and they were different colors, a little bright yellow, blue, green, and then walked around neighborhoods that looked like they had a bunch of houses that might buy closets and hung them on the doors. And it's still today. We still use them today. It's awesome. A great little, because
what's different, right?
It's totally different. It's totally different. People get it and they're like, oh, look at this cute little hanger. Yeah. And then, even if they're going to throw away the thing that was on their door, at least they looked at it, saw your name. Yep. You made an impression.
That's right. Well, yeah, because even if they just throw it away, they're going to then see your truck and they're going to see something, right? And then it's just like, okay. You see something. I had the founder of Lululemon on the podcast years ago, and he said when he sees something 3 times in a week, that's when he goes and starts researching it and decides to build a business. And that's what he heard about yoga in 1998, 3 times in 1 week, and he decided to start Lululemon that we all know today.
Really?
So isn't that crazy?
Really?
So the hanger thing could work, right? They see your hanger, they see the truck, they see an Instagram post. It's like, boom, now I need a
I don't think I made it as good as he did.
You've done all right. You've done just fine. Talk about routines and habits. Anything that you do that you could share with our listeners that you think, hey, this really helps me, win the day, which helps me win the week and helps me win the year?
Absolutely. 5 years ago, I had a stroke.
Oh.
I was 54.
Wow.
And no prior health issues or anything that, would have seen it coming or anything like that. And, I was very fortunate. I got out of it without any real damage. And I decided that I had a family history of heart issues and things like that. So I was like, I got to get this under control now. And I started before that, but I really decided that was a wake-up call for me.
Yeah.
I walk every morning 5 to 7 miles.
Wow.
Every morning. No, I do it in every kind of weather.
About an hour and a half, 2 hours?
It's about 2 hours because I walk from my house to Starbucks. I'll get my coffee. And then depending on how many people are there that
yeah, right.
how many people you run into that talk to, it takes me about, hour and a half to 2 hours. And other than ice, I won't walk in the ice. Yep. But other than ice, snow, rain, doesn't matter the temperature, every single day. And I get up at 5 a.m. and I do it every morning. And to me, it is a routine that's changed my life. It has changed my life. And I use that time. I love being outside. Mm-hmm. I can't go to
which is also healthy for you.
Treadmill, a gym. That is, I can't be on a treadmill for longer than 10 minutes. I just go crazy. But I can walk forever when I'm outside. So it's made me a lot healthier. I lost weight. My cholesterol numbers are way down. But I use that time. I wouldn't say it's meditation time, but it is definitely time where I sort of clear my brain. Sometimes I listen to podcasts. Yeah. Sometimes I listen to books. Sometimes I listen to talk radio. Sometimes I'll even do email and text for work during that time. But on the mornings that I don't get that walk in, I feel like my whole day is off. And that little bit of time, and I had to carve that out, right? Because, I had kids that were, in high school and stuff and needed to be around. So I do it early. And I also think that getting up early, there's that whole 5 a.m. club and that whole thing. Yeah. But there's something about getting up early, right? You go outside, there's not a lot of people around, it's peaceful, you sort of sometimes see the sun come up, and it just really, I have to do it. Yeah,
I love that. And so you said you listen to podcasts, books, all that stuff. Do you spend other time meditating or journaling or reading or any of that kind of stuff?
No. It's really
that's your time.
It's really
right
my
there.
time in the morning.
Yeah. You're seeing more and more. Sorry to interrupt. That how good walking, and we all know that, but like how really powerful walking is for you.
I would love to read more, but I come home from work and I'm exhausted. Yeah. If I sit down with a book, I'm just crashed out, right?
Book falls on your face.
Right. So it's just, I don't know. It's a good time for me. And I don't stay up late at night. Yep. I've never been a, late night kind of person, except for when my kids were in college and I was up worried about them. But, I think that's my routine and it works for me. Yeah. And I love it.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. What, I love this question. I've been asking it for now 431 interviews of the word fear. False evidence is appearing real. How many of the fears you put in your mind over your career have actually blown up to the magnitude you put them in your mind to be?
Well, I worry a lot. So maybe worry and fear is kind of the same. My husband tells me that I worry about things to worry about. I think sometimes I worry things into reality, right? I am
so
always, I feel like I am always looking at, and I think the older you get, the more you do it, right? You've had more experiences, right? Sure. So you see where things can go wrong, right? Yeah. And it's sort of how I think the older you get, you can maybe make better decisions because you've seen all of the bad things happen. And so we're going to make a decision, go around the bad things. So I think I fear a lot. I mean, right. Like right now with our current economy and the politics and the tariffs, I'm losing sleep over it. Yeah. Because it will affect my business. Sure. It will absolutely affect my business, my customers, and my employees. Yeah. They say you're not supposed to worry about things that you can't fix. Well, I'm not good at that. I worry about it all. And I don't fear. I don't know if fear is the right word for me. I don't fear things, but I do worry about them. Yeah. And I think I worry about them, but it causes me maybe to be ready when things do go wrong. because I'm like, okay, if this happens, well, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And they started talking about these tariffs in early January. So I immediately was on the phone with all my suppliers, and I'm like, okay, some of our wood comes from Canada. A lot of our, hardware comes from Germany and China. And what are we going to do? And, my suppliers are like, what are you talking about, Jennifer? I'm like, okay.
Got to think ahead.
We got to think ahead.
Yeah.
And just like COVID, when all the supply chains started crashing, I was like, this is a problem. Like, what am I going to do? I can't sell a closet without a closet rod.
Yeah.
Right? So I ordered an entire year's worth of closet supplies and hardware and accessories before anybody else was even worried about it.
Yeah.
And we didn't stock out of one thing during COVID.
Several hit deadlines. And
yeah. So I think sometimes business owners maybe get a little too relaxed and they don't worry enough. I'm not saying that you should maybe worry as much as I do or freak out or anything, but I think that you should be aware of, local conditions and statewide and worldwide, know about the conditions you're going into, and sort of always be ready to take action or make a decision.
I think it's what popped in my mind there was maybe it's a choice of words, right? I say fear, you say worry, but you just said aware. Maybe we can change your worry to awareness. Mm-hmm. You're trying to be aware, because I think if I ask the question, which I'm going to, is in 2006, 7, and 8, right? The nightmare, hell on earth, your mind, I think we're all guilty as human beings. We can build up this thing. This is going to happen. Oh my gosh, I could go bankrupt. I'm going to lose my house. I'm going to blah, 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 right? I'm going to have to fire everybody. Like all these bad things that happen. But if you really look back at 2006, 2008, you made it, right? Mm-hmm. It didn't blow up to the magnitude you probably had in your mind in that moment, right?
Correct.
Is that fair?
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to change it to awareness, not worry.
Okay, awareness.
Is that right?
Yeah, awareness is
Can
good.
you hold her accountable to that?
Awareness.
She's aware. She's aware.
Knows.
She's not worried.
She knows. My employees know I worry.
You're thinking differently, right?
Well,
you got to think.
I have kids. You said you have 4 boys?
4 boys.
I mean, man, the minute you have that first one, it's all over.
Well, it's funny. I was never a guy when my oldest was in high school. I never looked at Life 360. You worry about them until they get home and all that stuff. I never looked. I didn't really care. And it's funny now, my role is reversed where I'm the Life 360 guy. I'm like, where's he at? Okay, I can go to bed now. It's like, I don't know why, but I did. So, so we talked about routines and habits. How about think time? Do you spend much time thinking? Just literally just sit down and think?
Probably.
Or maybe that's in your walk time, Annie.
Probably in the morning on my walk. My husband owns his own business, and so we both work a lot. Once work's over, we go out to dinner, have a drink, or go home and cook dinner, maybe go for another walk, hang outside on the patio, and then go to bed. So, there's not much dedicated thinking.
Right.
I think my walk. I mean, 2 hours a day.
I would say
that's
it. Yeah.
I don't walk with anybody else.
Even if you're listening to something, your mind has wandered on to thinking about an idea. And
a lot of friends are like, "Oh, I want to come walk with you." I'm like, nope.
Yeah. I see one of your employees walk every day. She walks every day.
Yeah.
Every morning, very early in the morning. Don't want to get her in trouble. And so maybe you're listening to Nellie on that.
Yes.
You know why I'm going to that route?
I love Nellie. I'm a fan. I've been a fan for 25 years. Nellie.
And what did you just get to do? I saw it on social media.
Yeah, we were just hired by Nellie and his team to outfit their studios in Maryland Heights, where he stores a lot of their show clothes. He's married to Ashante, another performer, and they have a lot of show clothes, and they have their dancers and all the dancers' clothes and stuff like that. And they
I never
hired
thought about it that way. All the stuff.
Every time they go on tour, they have their tour buses there, and they have to load everything in. They just hired St. Louis Closet Company to come outfit this ginormous space. I mean, it's probably the size of 10 walk-in closets.
Wow.
And I also think that maybe they get a lot of promotional stuff. He's always in Nike. There's Nike tennis shoes piled to the ceiling. There's just all kinds of stuff that they need help storing. So the great story is his team had gotten an estimate from one of my competitors, and it was a franchise. It was not a locally owned business. And he was driving down the street in Clayton, actually, and one of my vans with the St. Louis Closet Company logo pulled up next to him, and he looked over, and he called his team, and he said, "No, homegrown, St. Louis, call them."
I love that.
Called us. We got the job done for him. Loved it. My dream was always to meet him, and I set up a time to go take a picture with him. Incredible. And I was hoping I was going to get like a minute. I think we talked a little bit about this before the show. And we got there early. He opened the door, greeted me, gave me a hug, welcomed us all in. He had said, I've been thinking about it. He says, we're going to do like a whole video, like an HGTV reel, and we're going to like open up the closet. We're going to be all excited. And I was like, okay, whatever. Okay, whatever you want. Yeah. And he spent 2 hours with us, totally uninterrupted. He was not rushed. And he was grateful, so thankful, complimentary of my installers, talking about how, love doing business with somebody local. And, for you and any of your listeners who don't know Nelly that well, Nelly carries the St. Louis banner anywhere he goes. I mean, he's doing an international tour right now, and it's all St. Louis all the time. And when you meet him, like as a real person, not his performance, but a real person, he is the kindest, nicest. I mean, he gave me more time than some of my just regular customers do, and was just so amazing about it. And then we made this little video and I sent it to him. And there's this little collab thing on Instagram. And of course he has 4 million followers.
That helps.
Peyton and I made this reel and we put it on there, and I texted him because he had given me his phone number, and I said, hey, I know you're in LA, literally getting ready to go on your international tour to Australia, but if you could just accept the collab, that would be great. And then we kind of waited a few hours, and Peyton was like, I don't think he's going to accept. And I'm like, he's not going to accept. And then all of a sudden he accepted. And it was like, I mean, it's still going. And that was 2 or 3 weeks ago. We've got over 600,000 views. I mean,
That's
for
amazing.
A small business.
Oh, it's a huge deal.
Huge deal. Plus I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
So
I told you my Nelly story. I randomly show up for our listeners. I was at a hotel in Mexico, and Nelly happened to be at the hotel. And little did I know, a couple of days later, he was going to be performing for 2.5 hours on the beach. So here we are with our friends. We got basically a private Nelly concert on the beach for 2.5 hours. I was basically from me to you from him the whole time. It was unbelievable. And he was awesome. He was at the pool all week and played catch with him with a football. Just like you said, he's a down-to-earth dude, and it's awesome. And he does love some St. Louis. Well, that's really cool. You also have something I think is great. My wife and I have a foundation for cancer that we've had since 2007. We want to give back to our community. You have Closets for a Cause. So talk about that.
Yeah, so it was, as a small business owner, you're constantly getting asked, hey, can you donate something to this auction? Can you sponsor this? Can you? And we did. We have, since I started my business, everything we could. But it never seemed like a substantial type thing. And I had gotten my business, this was in 2020, right before COVID, to a point where I was like, okay, I want to make a difference in my community. And I really worked for a long time trying to figure something out. So I came up with a program. It's called Closets for a Cause. And what we do is we partner with local charities to give back either a portion of our sales, or maybe we give back actual items like Stray Rescue will collect stuff for pets. Whatever it is, we're the #1 largest Toys for Tots drop-off site every year, which is really, really special. And we've tried to bring in other community partners, like the Bookmobile guy drops off now. Well, actually, he doesn't even drop them off. We go to his warehouse in North County and pick up pallets and pallets of books for Toys for Tots. So we've tried to bring other community partners in with us to help raise not only money and items for these charities, but awareness. So we actually partner with the charities, and, we post them on social media. We put them on our website. We allow them to come in and use our conference room. And we really try to, give back to the community. But so many small businesses are like, well, I don't have the money for that, or I don't have the time for that. Yeah. But it helps us too, right? I mean, it's Absolutely. A win-win, right? It gives us more exposure. St. Louis Closet Company gets the exposure to their members. It's a really good feel in the community if you're giving back. Yeah. It's a win for the charity because they have a corporate sponsor helping them, and then it's a win for the people that are on the receiving end.
That's right.
So I always encourage any business, no matter how big you are, to figure out a way, and you don't have to just write a check to make a difference.
Yep. It's like you said, we get 1,000 flyers a week, it feels like, right? Everybody's got a thing you got to write a check for. And it's like, okay. So I love that. Closets for a Cause. Where do our listeners find more of Jennifer Williams and the St. Louis Closet Company?
Well, our website is stlouisclosetco.com. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, YouTube, TikTok.
They can find you.
Twitter.
I love
You can find us. You can find us.
And you're on there as well?
I'm on there as well. Jennifer at St. Louis Closet Co. is my email if anybody wants to reach out. Love to hear from you.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for being on the Circuit of Success. It's been a pleasure having you and appreciate you sharing your story today.
Thank you.